Good afternoon. I am Shawanda Ivory, and my genre that I will be demonstrating today is a narrative writing. This is a PowerPoint describing the narrative writing genre. The objective for this lesson is going to be explain the narrative genre, identify elements and characteristics of a narrative, and the writing assignment for students is going to be to write and illustrate a personal narrative. The techniques associated with the narrative genre are all the same across the board. I've included 3 grade levels: kindergarten, 4th grade, and 7th grade, and the techniques are all basically the same. The student uses genre characteristics and craft to compose multiple texts that are meaningful. And within that statement, the TEAC states that the student is expected to dictate or compose literary texts, including personal narratives. So at the beginning, I will include a quick write. So I want you to think and write about a time in your life that made you excited or somewhat afraid. Or write something new you want to try. And I want you to take a few minutes to jot down a few ideas. These are going to be possible topics for your personal writing. Characteristics of a narrative are: the author's purpose for writing narratives are to tell their readers a story, to educate them, or to entertain. Narratives can be either fiction or nonfiction. I've mostly read fiction narratives. And the elements of a narrative are characters, plot, theme, and setting. So this is a graphic that explains what a narrative needs. So narrative writing tells a story. It tells characters, the who, setting, where, the plot, what happened, and the theme, which is the message of the story. We're going to get into the elements of a narrative. The first and most important element of a narrative is the characters. The characters are important because the characters are what the author centers their story around. And they talk about what the characters think, how they act, and what they feel. Characters can be developed in 4 ways: appearance, action, dialogue, and monologue. Setting is another element of a narrative. A backdrop setting is an element that is barely stated. You really don't know where the setting is. And those are mostly found in folk tales because they say long, long ago. They don't specify long, long ago when or where. Integral settings are more descriptive and noticeable. The setting can be real or imaginary. And then the 4 dimensions of setting are location, weather, time, and the time period. The plot is another important element of a narrative. The plot is the main events occurring in sequence, beginning, middle, and end. The plot is developed in 4 steps. The problem is introduced at the beginning. The characters face some type of roadblock or problem. The climax occurs when the character is about to solve the problem, and then the problem is resolved, and the characters overcome the roadblocks. Some narratives are centered around a theme, and the theme is the main idea, the big idea, the moral of the story, or the hidden message of a story. The theme deals with characters, emotions, or values, and also how the character is acting in the story. The theme can be stated explicitly, which is openly stated. It tells you, all these are my friends, we're doing teamwork, I love you. Or it can be implied through the character's actions or dialogue. The best practices for narrative writing are using guided practice activities. I mostly use story retelling in my classroom because I feel that it gets me an understanding of if my students knew what the story was about. We can also compare versions of stories. The Little Red Hen, Little Red Riding Hood, The Three Little Pigs, even Cinderella. They all have different versions of the story. And students can compare after reading one story and reading another story. They can compare the versions of what was the same, what was different, which version did you like best? What would you change in a newer version? Or you could also change the viewpoint of a story. Instead of the story being from the viewpoint of Cinderella, it can be from the viewpoint of the prince or her wicked stepsisters. You can use tools such as a graphic organizer or prompts to help students get ideas on topics to write about. Teach students the stages of the writing process: pre-writing, drafting, revising, editing. That way they have those steps in their writing and they can apply those strategies to the different parts of their writing. Teach the 6 traits of the writer's craft. Teach one skill at a time. If you are teaching sequencing, just teach sequencing. If you are teaching mainly how to develop a character, just teach character. And on the next day, you can teach the plot. And the next day, you can teach the setting and so on. That way, they have a piece of every stage in their writing and they can put it together for the end product. Use mentor texts to help teach the elements of narrative writing. Mentor texts for narrative give examples that teach students to focus on small personal moments from their own lives to create rich and entertaining stories. For the mentor text for this assignment, I chose Jabari Jumps. This story is about a boy who has taken swim lessons and now he is ready, or he thinks he's ready to dive off the diving board. But he gets scared once he gets to the top and he has to manage his emotions on what he's feeling because he's scared now. So he gets down, he talks to his dad, and he overcomes his fear. I chose this book because a lot of students in all grade levels can identify with being scared of something at one point or having to overcome an obstacle in their life. They went through a challenge in their life, and I felt that this text would help students to be able to write a personal narrative. As an assignment for a narrative writing, I could have students write about a time where they were scared or had to overcome a fear of something. that would go with the text that I chose to read to my class. That would go to something that they really know a lot about because they've probably experienced it at some point in their life. Another assignment that I would probably have an older grade level do is write about a personal goal that you want to accomplish. It could be one goal, two goals, three goals, but again, it is something that they can tell a story about, which is what a narrative is. It's their story, it's what they've been through, it's what they can relate to, it's what they can connect to. To assess narrative writing, I would have a conference with the students throughout the writing process. It is very quick in kindergarten because we read the story, we talk about the elements of a narrative writing, and we write or draw our writing. I will use their writing and they could have a self-reflection with me, a writing conference with me about what they chose to write about, why they chose to write about it, and how they're going to tell their story. Focus on what the student is portraying in their writing, not on the writing itself, the actual spelling, the grammar. Allow students to self-reflect on their writing, especially for older students. Ask them questions, how the process has gone for them. What revisions can they make to their writing? What can they change, or what would they like to add to their writing? Do they actually like what they're writing? And during the writing conference, listen to the student and guide them to make their writing meaningful. It's about building a relationship, making the students confident on their writing. It's about helping them to be effective writers. Thank you. So I chose narrative writing because it's something that is very personable. It's something that students can relate to. It's something that students can connect with and are proud of in their writing.